as we are launching straight into draft. It's going to be a little bit of a late night for us here on the stream, but glad to have you guys with us. Thank y'all so much for your patience as DGS was forced to get a last-minute sub in order to play this series. And the surge action continuing for us here. I'm not sure how. I'll have to find out from Matrix how the other series went between Goon Squad and who is it to play tonight? Double check the roster, the schedule for tonight. As Goon Squad was playing Missing Ping Mafia. So we'll get the results of that game later. Meanwhile, though, we're going to focus on the game in front of us right now. Is the first bans coming through both sides. Enigmatic take away Shin and the Fizz. DGS want to remove the very, very popular Smolder and get rid of that Nunu and Willem as well in the jungle. Renekton going to be the final first round ban from Enigmatic. Banning away kind of one of the staple top laners that we've seen so much of, not only within the TLS, but then also just professional leagues as well. Renekton's been that stable top laner for so long across so many different years. Just brings so much in terms of early skirmishing, great team fighting, great 1v1 power. And so I think wherever you can eliminate that pick and get yourself some additional safety, in terms of that top side and potentially play away from that matchup, I think is great. And the Ambessa going to be the first pick for Enigmatic. So DGS, they will have plenty of opportunity to counterpick that champion later on once they get into draft. Interesting to see whether or not DGS will actually save that counterpick for that top side. Is this overclocked? No, this is not the overclocked division. This is the Surge division, as our action continues on there. And people coming on over from the other stream, welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy to see you guys with us as we're getting into this game. Thresh, the support pick with DGS. This is always a suspect pick for me. We've seen quite a few people actually support-wise play this champion within the TLS. It's been pretty good for the most part. It's always kind of one of those champions that you're a little bit wary of just because the execution threshold is so high. As my God, picks started to come through very, very fast for both these teams. Is Malphite going to be the picked up answer there for the Ambessa? Assuming that it's not going into the jungle, I wouldn't suspect that it is. Her ult timing being nerfed a little bit, I think, has dissuaded people from wanting to take it into that role. I'm so interested to see the potential 1v1 power versus the Malphite. It's actually not a matchup we get to see hardly ever. So I'm not actually sure who wins that one. So maybe people in the chat will be able to give us an idea of how good that should go. But Enigmatic, they're going to draft themselves a fairly stable bot lane, Jinx and Braum. That duo needs no introduction. The Jinx will take a little bit of time to scale and come online. That's kind of a 2 to 3 item power spike champion. But the Braum, I think, stays generally useful throughout the entirety of the game, even early. Though can suffer into certain matchups. I'm not really sure how it will go into the stress. I think it'll be highly dependent on what Deathfire Grass wants to pair with it. I do like the Vi and answer to the Braum and the Ambessa, though. I think Denting Blows is going to be a really good answer to some of the innate sustainability that both of those champions have between the Ambessa and the Braum. And then also just shredding the tankiness, which is important. So far, I like what DGS have drafted themselves. They've got pretty good follow-up on the Malphite engage as well. Vi with the Apprehend is going to be, the Cease and Desist is going to be really, really good. But then also Thresh being able to start fights as well. So reliable ways to both get in and get out of engagements for Deathfire Grass. I like what they've done so far. But Enigmatic, I think, also has a fairly stable draft just with this core 3 that they've got. That bot lane won't necessarily need a tremendous amount of help, and the Ambessa is just a universally good pick, especially into the late game. Can become kind of that split-pushing side lane threat that the Malphite won't necessarily be able to answer that easy, and so I'm curious to see how that matchup will develop as the game goes on. As our final bans for this first game of the series is going to be Shyvana, Lissandra getting banned out, and Silas Nefiri hitting the ban board as well, trying to pinch that mid lane pool a little bit on the side of DGS. So signaling that Enigmatic at least is trying to set up potentially for something like an Orianna or a Syndra. They might be trying to set up for a Mel, which is also available. Akali would be an interesting decision to go with in terms of that mid lane if they're trying to draft for a little bit of damage. I don't think you necessarily want to play that into the DGS comp right now. I think especially since you know you're going to get counter-picked in that mid lane, so I would think they're going to probably go something a little bit more stable, and it is going to be potentially that Seraphine in the mid lane is a decent answer, but I think that would open up a Mel angle, and I'm not sure that Enigmatic is necessarily prepared for that, as it was just a bit of a troll flash over the Yumi, and so they will lock that Seraphine. The DGS were able to answer Victor, Orianna, Mel, all on the board, all decently strong within that Seraphine. They could go the Galio as well if they wanted to play a little bit more conservatively, just get some more tank, and then play the full peel comp for the Kai'Sa just to buy her some space is an option. And the Vigard going to be the pick that I didn't necessarily consider because I think Vigard mid lane has not been where we've wanted to see this champ. Typically, it's been in that bot side as kind of an AP carry threat. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on to the Rift. It's late at night. Some good old nighttime gaming. Enigmatic, DFG, game 1 of the series. First time these teams have met this season. DFG, they would like to even the score and put themselves in contention on the scoreboard, on the leaderboard, that is, and get their first win of the season. Enigmatic, as with all of the other divisions that we've seen thus far, getting a nice 2-0 start is a decent way to get your season rolling. And just have a little bit of fun. Gives you a little bit of safety, too. The more wins that you can lock in early, the better chances you're going to have of getting playoffs locked in. Is Gojo. It'll be taking a little bit of damage, but we'll walk out. Nice ward placement from Enigmatic, so they will have that information when the jungler walks on over there to try and take those Raptors. So it's good timing. Ooh, Crimson and John potentially finding a good timing there in terms of setting up some early damage, but decided just to go for the Jinx Q. It should be fairly decent sustain for both of those bot laners in this matchup. I think Happy, Zenpai, and Zoko, I think will just be fine to trade a little bit of their health bars in order to get some early pushing. And as I think we've been saying a lot of times through all the games that we've seen on TLS so far, keep eyes on the junglers. Watch to see them get involved. Both these junglers, I think, are not necessarily champions that need to be heads down till level 6. Ooh, nice Death Sentence on to the Kai'Sa. Trying to flash out a little bit more damage. Ooh, one more auto from Zoko might have been enough to secure it. And so John Scott will be forced to back off there. And so already losing out on that early trade a little bit. Really, really bad timing for John to have to walk out of there on that Jinx. Is going to be losing a massive wave. Obviously, not having the teleport means that you can't go back up there to quickly collect the minions. And having to blow both summons very early on is also not going to feel very good. So, great little trade for DFG there. And see if they can make something more out of it. Especially if they can bait both John and Crimson to walk a little bit too far forward. Then you're looking at a very easy setup as far as calling the Vi over. Getting that dedicated knock-up to follow into a Thresh Death Sentence would be a very, very easy combo for them. And so it's a vulnerability. So Enigmatic, they're going to have to be aware that that is now a potential focus point for Deathfire Grasp for the next couple of minutes at least. And I think for Enigmatic, I think if you can navigate just the next 3-ish minutes without getting ganked or at least without dying to a gank, I think you'll feel fairly accomplished. And as long as those summoners come back up, then it won't be so bad. But that generally is not how League of Legends games tend to pan out. Usually something bad happens when you don't have summoners and you're a little too far forward pushed, exactly like it's happening now. Luckily for Enigmatic, there is no jungler waiting in the wings to take advantage of this summonerless ADC, and they just shove the way forward. And they'll be waiting to collect the next one. Interesting to see that Zoko and Happy didn't try and freeze the wave there. The wave was healthy enough where they could do it. Flash forward again. That's going to be the Death, and it's landing on top of John. Doesn't have any summoners to get out, so is just going to have to eat that one. Not sure that Happy wanted to... I'm not sure that was worth Happy's flash there, to be honest with you, unless they knew for certain that they had kill threat. And so I think maybe a little bit of a wasted investment for basically no return, because it wasn't like John had any summoners to blow there. And if they didn't have the kill 100% secured, then perhaps it may have just been more worth it. Try and land a more passive combo, Death Sentence into Flay, and then just take damage that way rather than committing the flash. And also, potentially could have been even more disastrous given the fact that Konami was already in that bot side jungle. And so if that fight goes for too long and, maybe Happy and Zoko chase a little too far forward, that might have signaled the Pantheon to get involved there. Happy, though, can't seem to stop landing these death sentences. And it makes it really hard as a caster when you try and be critical of certain champions being drafted over other champions, and then people that play champions like this Thresh just continue to perform well on it. Every time I've talked about the potential skepticism of, drafting a Thresh, every time I brought it up, the Thresh players have just been really good on this champion. So maybe I should just continue to say nothing. Happy lands yet another death sentence. Flay both champions. Exhaust coming down. Heal will be forced out to try and keep John just a little bit healthy. That Braum passive is stacking, but another flash forward to make sure this kill gets secured. First blood goes over to Zoko. They'd like to turn this into double. Crimson now trying to walk the long way. Zoko wants to make sure he doesn't die, but it will go over. As the plasma was stacked, double kill to Zoko. And fantastic 2v2 play in the bot side. Deathfire Grass wasting no time at putting their mark in this series. We're going to see a replay there. Oh, no, we're not, because for some reason it's not working. All right, we're going to go back to live. Not sure why the replay wasn't working there. I know why. It's because I didn't start the bit that I'm supposed to start in order for this to work. And is my mouse dead? No, it's not. All right, there we go. I needed to start the replay buffer, and I didn't do that. So, well, there we go. That was a key opportunity missed, and that's my bad. Oh, well. Can't have everything on a one-man production. But in that bot play, I think you would have just seen both John and Crimson continue to just be a little too aggressive, playing a little too far forward in that matchup. And so, as long as Happy keeps landing those Qs, it's going to be a really, really difficult lane state for Enigmatic as far as trying to get any advantages, trying to get any pressure there. And the more that they keep dying, the more that maybe he's going to want to come down there and potentially have a say-so in that lane state. And the result of that was the first dragon going their way. So nice little mountain stats being added to their pockets, which is not the worst thing in the world. ERT and Konami might be taking a peek at this Vigar. Would be an interesting try, given that Vigar's kit does do a pretty good job in helping him avoid most of the ganks. And specifically, a little bit of interaction. Konami's leap, as far as that Pantheon stun, if you do that into the Vigar Event Horizon, which is the cage he puts down, it does stun you and stops you from getting the Pantheon stun off, just as a little interaction tidbit thing. So Konami will have to time that ability very, very carefully. So as long as Fizz kind of keeps that Event Horizon up just in response to any potential gank, really should be fine unless he's massively overextended. Won't necessarily stop ERT's Encore from coming out on that Seraphine, so at least there is a little bit of follow-up to help try and secure that kill, but just trying to land that full CC combo onto the Vigar is not the easiest. The Vigar's one of those champions that is deceptively difficult to gank sometimes. You think because of his inability to move around the map quickly, and then also just his inability to get out of certain situations as far as ganking, that it would be easier to gank that champion, but it is really not as long as Event Horizon is up. So Grub is going to be spawning in 20 seconds. Curious to see whether or not Mayview wants to try and go potentially contest for those. Top lane Prio getting pulled out here by Pernix should just mean they're not going to be able to... Oh, never mind. It's going to be the Lantern play. Pulling the jungler on into this one is... Yeah, that's going to be the Jinx being sent airborne. And now Zoko going to be using the ultimate to get on in there. Dash in, kill Crimson. Yet another double kill in that bot side. Will be very, very happy with the state of game. And yeah, that's exactly what we were calling out earlier. John, Scott, and Crimson just not playing respectfully of the positioning and not being aware of how easy it is to set up those ganks. And a massive credit to Happy for pulling that Lantern in, as we're going to get a replay on that one. So you can see John and Crimson, like, they're still feeling like they have the ability to step up in here, but with no vision, and even with sums available, they're just not being respectful of the ability for the Thresh to turn this into an easy play. So you see Lantern in there, dashes forward, does Mayview to get within range of that Lantern, takes it in. And this is just easy follow-up. The cease and desist lands on top of John, not able to go anywhere. Crimson just... honestly, just a sacrificial lamb there. As we're getting into game, Konami just flashed forward to try and lock down Fizz Talkers. Wasn't able to do so. And now, going to be the full Wombo combo here available for DFG. They're going to turn that into a nice little skirmish win. They're going to collect themselves all three grubs here, as Konami was there trying to set up the play onto that neutral objective first. But DFG did a really good job to respond. Happy Senpai going to land the death sentence and the flay back to make sure that they knock down ERT. The Event Horizon going to be used to lock down Perdix even further, who won't even be able to trade for the Thresh. It's a double kill for Mayview. And DFG, they're just winning across the board right now. Team fights, objectives, even small little skirmishes, everything's theirs for the taking. Let's get a replay of that and see how that fight broke out. So it kind of starts with Konami going down, and then you see the rest of Enigmatic. They're trying to hover around here to see if they could get something, just see if they can potentially look for a pick, but the health bars are still really, really good. Now, once Crimson comes in, they think maybe they have the opportunity to get involved, and Happy Senpai landing that hook gives them the false impression, okay, well, maybe we can at least walk away with 1 or 2 kills, but then they just continue to stay alive, and the CC layer is so good that when Pernix throws down that ult onto Gojo, it's not really able to get much of anything. And in fact, it gets absolutely nothing. And so Enigmatic not necessarily coordinated right now in these early skirmishes, and DFG, this really benefits them. It's a 5-0 Kaisa, who already has that Kraken Slayer built, which is exactly what you want to start to shred through what is honestly some very skinny health bars here for the side of Enigmatic. You know, Pernix is not necessarily going to be building super tanky. And Konami hasn't really completed the first item yet either. So right now, that Kraken Slayer damage is going to feel really, really bad in these continued skirmishes. And with the dragon spawning now, this will just mean that Enigmatic's going to have to kind of watch and wait for this objective to go down. There's opportunities for them to slowly eat back into this one as long as they can take some favorable skirmishes, but they need a numbers advantage to do it. Oh my god, Zoko is just fearless right now. They would continue to land the damage. Remember, only Flash is available for John. Doesn't have that barrier to survive this one. Cease and desist is going to be landed on top of the Jinx. John had nowhere to go as multiple people stepping in front of him, and this will just be the continued follow-up to make sure that this Braum goes down. He's only going to waste a little bit of time. Not sure what ERT is waiting in the wings for. Either need to step up and do something or go back to the lane, as eventually the Braum does get donated over to Fizz Tacos, and now Ping's coming down onto that dragon, as it is that Ocean Dragon. They're going to go grab that. Interested to see what the soul will be, because if it is an Ocean Soul, that would be even worse for Enigmatic, for just Deathfire Grasp to have that continued sustain. But so far, great adjustments from Deathfire Grasp over their last performance a couple weeks ago. And I think that's one of the key things that we kind of been looking to see across really all our divisions is, you know, where these teams are going to put up fights and exactly where they'll be able to collect wins. And I like seeing teams start to go even a little bit more because it makes a potential playoff scenario even more exciting. You know, it's cool to have a couple teams that, you know, are really good and win the majority of their games, but it's even more exciting to have, you know, fairly evenly matched teams where you're not exactly sure what the results are going to be of any given series and where you're not sure who's going to make it to playoffs. You know, it gives you a little bit more intrigue, and I like to see the DFG doing a really good job. So far, kind of a perfect game other than the turret plates that they've dropped. They've gotten both dragons. They got all 3 grubs. They haven't given over any kills yet. And so potentially still on for what is, I think, effectively a perfect game. But Konami would like to interrupt that. Gojo level 10. He does have Unstoppable to get out of this, as well as his Flash. So he shouldn't be in too much danger. This is just to kind of poke this Malphite out and force him underneath turret to get a little bit of pressure. But other than that, they're not really going to have anything else to show for that time that they're spinning up on the top side. Because there's no neutral objectives. There's bot side camps for Konami to take, but it doesn't necessarily feel the best right now. We'll, I think, try to go towards Mayview's top side and just sneak away some of those camps if you can, which should be able to, as the Vi is only just now recalling. For Enigmatic, I think as we start to see a couple more of these skirmishes coming through, I really want to see them focus Zoko. I think as annoying as the Vigor is to try and fight through, the pressure needs to be put on this Kaisa in order to have any chance of winning this game, because he's going to start to get out of hand. He already has completed Tier 2 boots, already has the Kraken Slayer, and it's just going to be incredibly oppressive in these games. Now, Fizz Taco is here. This is a 2v3, now a 3v3 committed here. Gojo hasn't yet used the Unstoppable, will now throw it down on top of Konami. And Pernix will follow up with the ultimate. It is going to be their first kill, at least traded, as Amesa is able to slay the Malphite, but what else can they get as they're being pressured in that top side? And Mayview, with those denting blows, just shredding through Pernix's health bar, forcing both of them back underneath the turret. So 1-for-1 trade off of a fight that Enigmatic picked. It's something, but I'm not sure that's everything they would have wanted. I think definitely with the man advantage that they had there, they would have liked to have gotten quite a bit more. I think ERT, the one thing I'm going to be critical of right now is waiting, I think, a little bit too long on setting up these engages and throwing out the Encore is, Jesus, John Scott's going to hit again. Flay backwards is going to get exhausted. Flash forward for Zoka to make sure that he goes down. He's godlike. My God, just can't stop killing the Jinx. It's going to be that Hex Tech. Completed for John, but that's just a little consolation prize of an empowered back. Zoko, absolute command over this bot side and really over this game. For DFG, this is going to start to go from bad to worse because when this Kai'Sa starts to get fully involved in these 5v5 team fights, it's going to be difficult, to say the least, to lock that Kai'Sa down and to survive that damage. And so I think for Enigmatic, I think now might be the time to start creating a checklist of things you're willing to live without. And I think that list should perhaps include a third dragon, a herald, and maybe some of these outer turrets. I think you're just going to have to go to turbo conservative mode before you can risk trying to take a fight, because you need time for your carries to start to get leveled up and get items. John is already 2 levels behind Zoko. I only just now completed that first item as Happy Senpai. This is going to be the player of the game. I'm telling you right now, the way he's landing these hooks, this is just disgusting. As he's just landing them on demand. Cease and desist, going to be put down on top of Pernix, who now just wants to get out of the Thresh trap, but not able to. Again, continuing to land death sentence after death sentence, but big part is a lot of their damage is gone with the Kai'Sa not being here right now. Gojo is just walking in, throws out the Unstoppable. They should be able to start to collect these low health bars. This Taco putting in the damage. Happy Senpai cutting off the retreat on that backside, making sure that no one can feel safe to run away. Eve, at least assisting and getting some of the damage down, will be running out behind Gojo here. I don't know if he wants to try to follow this underneath the turret. And so 1-for-1 ultimate, I think, at the end of that fight. Actually, maybe 1-for-2 there. As that's going to be the Encore thrown down on top of Gojo, who overstayed his welcome. Not sure why he was still hanging around in that top side. That's not where you want to be, buddy. Other than that being a 1-for-3 overall, that little skirmish. So for Enigmatic, that's, I think, a nice, decent sign that they could at least try and fight back in this game. And also making use of the opportunity with Zoko not being there. And so for DFG, a little bit of a misstep there, and I think they need to be cognizant that Zoko is a huge part of their damage. No disrespect to Fizz Tacos, you know, is pouring out some of that damage on that Vygar, but he is not going to be the reason they're winning right now. As that Vygar wants to kind of get to that 30-minute mark where he's just kind of gotten all of his primordial evil stacks, and they could really start to delete people, but that that time is a little bit farther away from now. But for Enigmatic, a small adjustment, but a good adjustment to take a fight away from Zoko. That's going to be harder now that this bot lane turret is gone, so that should just mean that Zoko and Happy Senpai are going to be grouped together constantly with whoever else wants to rotate with them. And they can look to just send a solo laner towards that bot side, and it is, in fact, going to be Fizz Taco going there to help secure and secure some farming, keep pushing the waves in. As DFG, they're going to go ahead and start up this Herald. I like this play. This is one of the things that I think Enigmatic, they had to make a checklist with in terms of things they were going to be willing to give up. It's just not their choice. Is DFG, even despite losing that small little skirmish, they are just massively in control of this map, especially while Zoko's hanging out there. And so, interesting to see where they want to put this Herald. Instinct says to maybe wait for the next dragon in about 4 minutes and then put it towards mid lane. That way you can get additional pressure, or send it up with a top laner. Send it up with Gojo. And that way he can collect that solo turret gold. And then that way it's a dedicated cross-map trade for something. It would also be a decent way to try to pin Pernix in that top side where he doesn't necessarily want to be. Because as much as I think he'd like to get some solo time with the topside turret and get those plates, I think he needs to be available for Enigmatic in these team fights in order to help them set up, because without him, they are missing some of their hard engage onto some of your squishy targets. And for Pernix, I want to see him be a little bit smarter about this target selection too. Don't target Mayview. Don't target Gojo. Get on top of that Kai'Sa. Get on top of his Tacos wherever you can. Eliminate those damage dealers, and then the job gets so much easier. But to be honest with you, this test that he's going to be going through, it really only has one answer, and the answer is Zoko. There should be no reason to be targeting anything other than the Kai'Sa. You know, if you aim at the Kai'Sa and you accidentally hit something else, you know, okay, I can respect that because it could be a little bit difficult to land it through traffic. But if you've got a clear shot and you aim for somebody else, I think that's just wrong. And Enigmatic, they're already going to have their work cut out from these fights just with how far Zoko is ahead. He's already got the Rage Bait completed. So Kaisa does a incredible amount of damage. And speaking of that damage, that's going to be damage thrown down on top of the Jinxes. Pernix did time that ultimate great on top of Gojo. Didn't necessarily need to flash out of the turret range. I think it would have been okay. But does want to play it safe, so doesn't drop in that top side, at least in the 1v1. Does manage to pick up a kill, so is on the board with 2 kills. But that sacrifice is going to be at the cost of a mid lane turret, and they're going to get a second charge here out of this Herald. And pick up a couple more of those plates. Happy Simba again, landing another hook. Encore going to go wide, so no further follow-up for the side of Enigmatic. They're just going to have to watch those plates go down. And DFG, very gold-rich right now, very experience-rich. They have a 4,000 gold lead to their name. Fish Tacos, does he know he's getting teleported on? I don't think so. Pernix is here, sans an ultimate. Fish Taco's going to put the event horizon down. But yeah, there's 4 people here, so this Yordle is just going to get collected. Wasn't playing with respect, and Enigmatic punish him. They teach him a little bit of a lesson, saying, hey, buddy, can't be down here waddling all by yourself. Where are your parents? And so he will just be shown back to the fountain. But I got to highlight this again. DFG, they're making plays, so when their mid laner goes down towards that bot side and gets killed, they're trading for something in the top lane. Zoko going to get that Soul Turlet gold. My God, this Kais is just so heavily accelerated. Has more than the entire gold lead of everyone else combined. It's almost a 2.5 gold lead. 2,500 gold lead. My God. And I think for Enigmatic, one of the other things I'm worried about too is the fact that this Pantheon isn't like the best late game scaling jungler in the game. It definitely does kind of start to fall off once it reaches that 2-item spike, to be honest with you. It's just really not that great in terms of damage. It's great in terms of, you know, some survivability, CC, and acting as a general frontliner, but in terms of Pantheon being the carry champion, especially the fact that it's only 2, 2, and 3, it's not really the answer that you're looking for there for Enigmatic. So you're really looking for Konami to set up Pernix and John. And I'd like to see Enigmatic try and get a full 5v5, which is something they haven't had a chance to get. But right now, they're going to be separated across the map as this Baron is going to go down as Fish Tacos just kills John right underneath the turret. Well, I say right underneath it. Close enough to the turret that it was home territory. And they're not even going to get that bot lane second tier 2 turret out of it. As DFG, they pick up the Baron. They're wearing purple, and they're going to look to start to spread this across the map. So look to see them start syncing up waves and pushing all 3 lanes. And they don't necessarily need to be grouped as 5. They can individually pressure 3 lanes and they'll be fine. So wherever Enigmatic wants to group to fight them, DFG will be fine with that. They will just back off and absorb some of that pressure and allow whoever is splitting to continue to do so. And already Gojo starting to push those waves through. The Infernal Soul is available for keeps right now. And Enigmatic, they might be a little bit too late to this play. 3,000 already left on the Dragon. Let's see what Konami can do. Flashes for to try and steal the Dragon, but wasn't able to do it. Now he's got to get himself out of here. And he will just be sacrificed by his team for the attempt to steal away the Soul. Infernal, granted with very little contest over to DFG. Now they're wearing double buffs. They've got that Soul. And might they find something else? Zoko dashing in, wants to start putting some of the damage in, tempt this team fight forward. They will pick up the Braum. What else can they get? Right now, it's just going to be some minions as they start to shove this wave. They're 5 strong. They're not going to rotate through as their waves aren't quite seeked up yet. That top wave will have quite a bit of distance to go, so they're just going to chill out here in the mid lane and wait for the wave to get to them. And I think for sure this is an inhibitor, especially knowing that you have your jungler and your support down, so this is just going to be a sacrifice that Enigmatic going to have to take. It's just how greedy do Deathfire Grasp want to get. I'm not sure that was going to be the flash. He's going to land the ultimate on the Pataco, but Pernix is just dead before he can really get anything done. Eve, though, sets up. Wait a minute. Huge shutdown given over as that Jinx is going into a frenzy. And now Gojo's trying to get the hell out of dodge. It looked good there for a minute for DFG. Oh, but a fight just gets immediately turned underneath the turret, and now they're left without much of a... so much as a prayer. Oh, Gojo, does he manage to get it? Nope, he's going to go right back into the waiting arms of multiple people here. As John, I think, should be the one getting that kill and does, in fact, pick that up, as we're going to see a replay there. I want to see how this starts off because it looks good here. The siege is just kind of patient, but then the flash here, this is what I'm curious about. Is I'm not necessarily that flash was worth it. Gets on top of Fish Tacos and trades his life for it, but a 4-man encore sets up that damage, and Konami managing to collect up a couple. That sends John into a frenzy, and that's exactly what you want, getting that Jinx involved, pouring out that rocket damage. And that was all she wrote for that fight. And you see Gojo get picked up on the end there. Not sure what's going on here. Happy wanted to get a little bit more dedicated. CC does live there for a second, but John manages to pick up that one in the end. Zoko flashing forward as well. It's starting to get sloppy here for the side of DFG. And now Zoko's got to try and walk out. Should be able to, though. The Event Horizon going to buy him a little bit of space to work with. A Glacial Fissure put over the wall to just slow somebody down, but that wasn't enough. And now the teleport's coming out. Gojo gets back involved in this one. A little bit late, but better late than never. And now Ping's coming down towards this mid wave. 3 dead for the side of Enigmatic will signal DFG to run towards that mid lane and get an inhibitor. I don't think that they can end the game right now because they are no longer wearing purple, but they will at least start to put the damage in these structures. The respawn timer's not the worst here for Enigmatic. At bare minimum, John's going to be up. Anomaly there should be able to kind of help hold on to the rest of this base. And with only about 10 seconds kind of total left on the remaining members here of Enigmatic, DFG are just going to walk on out. They're going to ping that bottom wave and potentially look to group as 5 to start get this turret. Encore's going to lock Gojo. He was just lagging behind a little bit, so another opportunity given for Enigmatic to pick up at least a little bit of return gold. But their base being cracked does mean that they are not free to move across this map so easy. They're going to be their base is constantly going to be under threat. But they're staying scrappy. They haven't given up yet, and I like to see that. They're at least recognizing that they have some opportunities, some timings that they can take advantage of in trying to punish DFG. And the more kills that you can get on John, the better it's going to feel. He is working towards getting that. I think it's going to be a Lord Domish regard, but then there's also the Colt, so I'm not sure necessarily what they want to turn that into. Maybe just hold on to the bow there and wait to finish that. And right now for Enigmatic, it's all about pouring gold into this Jinx. There's really no more important champion. I think at this point, Pernix is not necessarily going to be the greatest investment there. And unfortunately, John hasn't been able to collect as many of those kills as ordinarily you might think a Jinx would be able to with the health bars being in that in the states that they were, especially in some of these skirmishes. But that'll start to change. John has that Infinity Edge completed there. Already had that Infinity Edge completed in the Lord Domish regard. Is now also completed. And so will just start to shred through the armor that has been picked up by Malphite and by the Thresh. And so these long extended team fights are really going to start to hurt for DFG as well. And John also, I think, doing a really good job to catch up in levels, which is, I think, no less important than even the itemization being even. Enigmatic, they're a little split right now. It's 4 strong for this top side here. Is going to go unstoppable. Manages to get towards the back line, but gets deleted. Fizz Tacos throws down the ult to make sure he gets locked up. Anomaly. These health bars are really, really low. The Jinx would very much like to get involved there, but not able to step far forward enough. One Jinx rocket, one super mega death rocket, or even a couple of auto procs on rocket mode would have been enough to start to run away with that fight. But John, does manage to get one on a Fizz, so it will at least lock down one. So not going to go away empty-handed. But just a consolation prize. They're going to need a little bit more. Is both of these big buffs are about to spawn within the next few seconds. Herald is spawning in about 5 seconds, and then Herald is in Elder Dragon less than a minute. And for Enigmatic, you're going to have to choose which one you want to give up because you're not going to get both, even on this timing. And so I think for Enigmatic, honestly, I think their play is try and go for Elder. Try and contest that. The Baron you can deal with. You have the wave clear. Just don't make any weird plays in terms of getting caught. And by getting caught, that includes you, Crimson. That includes you not getting caught over the wall. And is going to get absolutely chunked before this fight starts. And that's not what Enigmatic would have wanted because he's going to have to back. That's unstoppable. They've called out the other members for Enigmatic here. What are they doing? It's a split fight, not where you want to be. The support's already dead. A little bit invested to get him. Oh, health bars are low. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. I may have spoken a little too soon. Enigmatic, what are they going to be able to find? Is DFG just, I think, assumed that they had this one in the back. And John is going into a frenzy. That's not what you want. And it's only the mid lane of the ADC available now for DFG. They cannot step anywhere close to this, I say Elder Dragon, but God, do they fancy themselves an opportunity? Is that Q gonna land from the Kaisa? Fish Tacos has a lot of damage. Landing this over the wall is gonna hurt. These health bars slowly get it a little away as Zoko potentially looking for the opportunity. Wants to get involved with this and wants to potentially steal that away. Is going to walk forward. Doesn't manage to steal it. Decent attempt. This Taco now needs to walk out of this. Need to be careful because that Elder is active. John would love to lock down. That Vigor, but didn't manage to do so just out of execution range. I respect the attempt from DFG to try and steal that one away after a bad team fight. They were gambling a lot there, and so Enigmatic doing a really good job. They're staying scrappy in this game. My God. Just hanging in there, and they've even got themselves a gold lead now after all these shutdowns and being able to kind of go back even on some of these objectives. And now that lead that DFG had earlier is starting to slowly disappear, and it's been all based on execution and the fact that DFG haven't been as clean in these last 7 or 8 minutes as they really should have been. You're starting to see some holes in their shot calling, so they need to clean this up in the next couple minutes. They can still win this game. It's very much theirs to determine, but that starts by not getting caught out in man disadvantages in the wrong spots, and Gojo has access to the flash, has access to the unstoppable, and will try and get out, but Pernix has already rotated away just to make sure that he can't get free. Even the ult doesn't tag. Oh, Gojo, the fancy feet. Wait a minute, this may not be so bad. Super Mega Death Rocket also going to miss. They're committing so much to try and lock down this mouth fight for no reason. Oh, God. They may have sold the farm just to buy a couple of chickens and a little bit of damage onto the top laner. Is that inhibitor going to go down yet again? No, thankfully, no bot wave for DFG to play around to grab this bot tier 2, but that was starting to look sketchier and sketchier for Enigmatic just to lock down Gojo, who with a fancy feat got out of certain death. But they can look to rotate towards this Baron. The question is whether or not DFG feel that they can go and make their way towards that objective. Their jungler not available yet. We'll have to walk on up. Happy, don't take that death sentence back in. That's not where you want to be. Gojo, only about 3/4 health. And Deathfire Grass, they need to be careful on how they egress towards this topside river. As they have super minions pushing, but they are going to be a little bit of a disadvantage if they try and walk into this 5-man stack setup around this Baron. This is really not where they want to be right now. Keep your eyes on Pernix. A lot of what Enigmatic want to do is based off whether or not Pernix is able to land the ultimate. And DFG, they are just making the trade here to go for this Baron. I'm not sure this is worth it, though, because they are going to get the empowered recalls. Gojo will drop down. And DFG, they've made the call just to try and run here and knock down these towers, but the recalls are going to be completed. Flash forward from Eve to make sure that that Encore lands at least on it too, but it is the tankiest members, but the damage is just too much right now. Enigmatic. Oh, they've got that Jinx and a Frenzy. Now Zoko and Mayview, they have to get the hell out of dodge, try to run back up the lane. DFG's shot calling in these last couple of minutes has just been not what you need to be doing. They were getting pulled across the map multiple times, and even now as Kadama, he's going to go try and make sure they can try and cut off the retreat. Zoko forced to run towards the jungle. Enigmatic, they want to make sure that they have free and unfettered access towards this mid lane turret. Oh, DFG, it looks so good for so much of this game, but the last 12 or so minutes has just not been their strongest moment. And you hate to see it. It was just, we were singing their praises, how well they were doing, and how much they were limiting Enigmatic's ability to play across the map, but now they've just squandered that. Losing the Herald, losing the Elder Dragon has allowed Enigmatic back in this game poor team fighting choices. And then just poor shot calling, trying to run mid while there's a Baron being taken. When you have the ability to at least try and contest it, at least try and force Enigmatic off it, even if you can't take it away from them. Now GFG, they're finding themselves falling further and further behind. Of course, this gold will mean less and less as the game goes on, as we start to see all these champions completing their itemization. But DFG, you had Enigmatic out of this game, and now you've allowed them back in, and now you're going to have to dig yourself out of this hole that you've put yourself in. And for Enigmatic, they're going to have that inhibitor respawning here in about the next 2 minutes, so they can look to kind of play around that. Elder Dragon going to be spawning around that time as well, and so that will signal both of these teams to go and contest for that objective, assuming we don't get any big team fights before then. And it really feels like whoever walks away with that buff will walk away with this game, as we're getting close to the 35-minute mark. DFG, they need to go back to what was working before. Getting Zoko set up, locking down John, locking down Eve to make sure that that follow-up isn't there. You know what? I got to give a shout out to Kadamli because I wasn't expecting that his damage was going to be as good as it is, but 7, 3, and 9 on that Pantheon, turning me into a liar. He's been a huge part of shredding that armor that DFG has been trying to build, and making sure that no one has been healthy in these skirmishes. And it's been a minute since we've seen a full 5-on-5 from either of these teams, but I think just with the way this game feels, it just Enigmatic, they're in a much better spot, I think, with their damage and with their itemization, and they can start to kind of play these team fights front to back. Happy has an interesting flank here. As Gojo trying to deal with Pernix in that top side and push these lanes out to make sure that the minion waves aren't pushing super far ahead. This Baron is going to be falling off of Enigmatic now. So they don't have that buff to play with. Gojo needs to try and walk out of this one. Wants to at least try and prevent Pernix from teleporting towards that bot side, but he is just getting chewed up and spit out right now. Pernix, he's going to commit the ultimate. Ooh, nice unstoppable by Gojo to get on out of that one. Don't have his flashes yet. He's trying to run for his life and get away. Pernix, no other movement and speed abilities to catch up back to the Malphite, so that will be the end of that little trade. The Malphite will be the worst for wear there, so they're both going to recall, both going to look to teleport onto the map. This is the pivotal fight, what both of these teams have been waiting for as they've kind of just been hovering around this objective. Teleport's going to be channeled now. Malphite nowhere really good to teleport to other than the lane. He's just waiting to heal back up. Is going to be channeling that teleport late, so we'll be getting to this fight just after. Oh, wait a minute. Enigmatic, they may be making the call again on top of Gojo, knowing that he doesn't have any getaway abilities, has access to the flash, but no one's stoppable. They're going to try and turn and get this top laner. Gojo needs to live here for Deathfire to grasp any chance into this fight. It's mixed though on the backside. DFG, we want to see if they can get something on the return, but they're not able to. Enigmatic were left alone so long in this game that they've got back in, and now who's bullying who? John Scott helping Konami to pick up for that triple kill, and that may just be the end of the game. As Enigmatic, they're going to run this through. It was rough in the early game, but they have fully turned it around. Smart shot calling, playing conservative, and sacrificing where they needed to. They got back into this one. And DFG, it looked so convincing in that early game. It was looking like the game was going to be over. Looking like maybe they had Enigmatic where they wanted to, but now it is just a bed of tears and thorny roses for them. They have to watch their base get destroyed. The only one that's up is Maybe, who's going to be soon donated to the kill fund. He will go down. Those towers going to get collected there. He was trying to see if he could stall even for a moment to buy time for the rest of the respawns to come out, but didn't happen. As I say that, though, Gojo going to channel the Unstoppable. Wait a minute. Maybe this game isn't quite over. Flash out from Konami, who is going to go into the GA. And Grimson now just wants to walk out. Konami, though, will not be going anywhere. Gets grabbed up. Right now, it's an inhibitor and a Nexus tower gone. Wait a minute, DFG. They will at least delay the end of the game for now. They're going to be spawning in 40 seconds. They can run out and potentially get that objective. But they're going to be Sands and inhibitor for the next 4 minutes. No aggressive wards for Enigmatic to teleport to, so no chance to at least try and sneak the base. The Enigmatic already pinging down onto that Baron, knowing the DFG has to go there in order to get a stay of execution. And DFG, you've been given a lifeline. You've been given a Hail Mary. This is it. You either get this Baron to turn this around and win a team fight, or you're out of this game. And Enigmatic is not the kind of team that usually lets go of a lead when they get one. It usually isn't the kind of team that'll let you back in. It's just a moment of silence as we wait for both these teams to make their fateful call on this one. DFG, it's all about target selection. You need to try and make sure that you're eliminating Konami and John Scott on this one. And I think Konami, if they can turn this around, if they can end up winning the series off of his efforts and off of their team fighting, I think you're going to have to give it a player of the series for him. Obviously, more games to go, but he has been a huge part of Enigmatic's effort to get back in this game. And they're looking right now. Happy Senpai wants to try and find the right amount of CC stun, but wait a minute. Pernix was win with no follow-up, but that's going to be a 3-man encore. Meanwhile, Konami over the top manages to put him down as the Elder buff is still active on the last dregs. They win the fight. Enigmatic, they trade their top laner for a game win. As it's only Zoko and Fish Tacos. They're still fairly healthy, but Enigmatic should have the numbers to close this out. They've got super minions pouring into the base. It's only one Nexus turret available. As Konami does go down, it's the passive damage. Zoko goes into the zone. He's just to buy a little bit of time. Eve trying to stay alive just to make sure that they have the numbers advantage. And Fish Tacos could really do not a whole lot of this one. He's going to get rooted up. He's going to get killed. Enigmatic, they turn that early game around. They stay scrappy. They stay motivated. And they don't allow the game state to get the better of them. They turn it around, and they win this first game in this best-of-3 series.
Yeah, they did. And, moving into this draft, I feel like DFG DGS rather, really should just focus on, I think, clean winning lanes that are very clear and easy to play to get you into a similar state that we saw them in last game, and then just tighten it up towards that mid to late game. Really start, the support and the jungler need to be shot calling a little bit more, or at least need to be working in tangent a little bit more, and working together to actually take down some objectives one after another and have a serious game plan for how they plan on controlling the game after such an early lead. ENG really just needs to do exactly what they did in the first series they played, and then in the last game, just play out the game, play to your strengths, and then just tighten up in the lanes, and you should be good to go.
I don't know. I think if you're Enigmatic, I think I would make one adjustment. That's maybe don't play the lane state exactly the same way you played that.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
Change that bit. Maybe go back and erase that part from the script. No, but I think to your point, like DGS, I think they proved that they had the right blueprint, at least in the beginning. But I think there were just some weird calls in how they wanted to approach any of that out, especially around those later neutral objectives, around that Herald and, those Barons where they just really were getting caught out. And I mean, the pivotal moment to me was that first Baron. They tried to shove in that mid lane and just got obliterated by Anomaly. I think, for DGS, you're talking about the jungler and the support making the shot calling. I think if those are the two individuals that are shot calling, maybe you need to redelegate that responsibility to someone that has a little bit more clearer picture of how that game should end out, because some of those calls were very bizarre.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. Even, some of the people in chat immediately were, I'm sure, question mark pinging their PCs, just wondering, what the hell just happened. Because, they were in a really strong state in the game. It really did feel like they had absolute control. And once that Baron call happened, I was in chat and I remember saying, oh, this looks like a good play. Because at the time, I thought that towers and the inhibitor were up. So I'm like, well, at least you're going to get an inhibitor and force pressure on the mid lane.
Yeah.
But those were already gone. And so then the timing was just way off. They ended up getting absolutely destroyed in the follow-up fight, which I felt like just snowballed into an even worse lead and ended up ultimately resulting in them losing the game. So
yeah, I think that final little sequence that DGS had towards that Baron, I think is probably clippable with a bunch of little goofy edits to it, because I think it's not the greatest trade debate. It's like, yes, we will trade Baron for game, and we will also not make a call to contest for either objective. In terms of, like, if they were going to run down the base, okay, do it as 5. If you're going to contest Baron, okay, do it as 5. Or if you're going to try and split and, like, have one guy interrupt Baron, well, then you need to fully commit. And Gojo was kind of, like, hanging around where, like, he could see the Baron going down, but then never really did anything to interrupt it. And I'm like, this is a really weird call.
Yeah, definitely. Side note, bit of a oopsie here. Do we have the drafter link anywhere?
We do. I can send it to you. And I can actually I could just do the thing where I just do the thing where I just...
That works too. I'll watch the drafter through your eyes.
Yes, I realized we were not talking about drafting. I wonder why we haven't moved to this one specific thing. I was like, oh, right. Like, there we go. You should be able to see that now. As the bans coming through, both teams kind of standard as they were in the last game. DGS kind of going back to a similar draft as they had in the first game. Enigmatic, they've got themselves the brand, the Xinjiao, so they've got some good team fighting. What do they want to pair alongside it, though, is the question for me.
DGS has a clear identity in this early draft. They are obviously drafting to go forward and not stop.
They got
Alistar Jarvan.
Meatballs.
Yeah, they got a lot of meatballs. They really want to get into the face of ENG. And ENG drafting very well. I feel like this is really good at disengage out of all three of these. I actually would have probably preferred what they had first, but Nautilus will do just fine. Brand, Xin Zhao, plenty of disengage there. Brand, one of the best disengage mid laners in the game, in my opinion. I feel like the combos you can pull off, I mean, even if Brand dies, if he at least gets 2 abilities off, including his ultimate, he does so much damage when he gets at least 2 items. But that being said, you can't just win games purely off of having an identity of disengage, right? I want to see what kind of tools they place into the top lane and in the AD carry position to actually make this make sense. Yep. And immediately coming out for ENG, the Mundo ban. You do not want Mundo paired up with this DGS roster. This is going to be an absolute meatball team comp, and you want to try to take those off as best you can. Lissandra banned out for DGS, so obviously trying to limit the amount of disengage that they're going to be drafting going into the second round of picks.
Yeah. There's still some decent meatballs available for Enigmatic and towards that top side. Ornn, Scion, all available. Shin is kind of a meatball that you could draft if you wanted to. Would give some additional safety. I am worried about their damage right now, though, because right now the most damaging champion is that Jarvan, and Brand is actually a really good answer into the Swain the Alistar, just because the amount of passive health burn and healing reduction that he gets out of his kit, in addition to the items he builds, makes it really difficult for DGS to survive for that. So I like that Enigmatic are recognizing that they're going to have a lot of health to cut through. The big thing for me is what ADC they want to grab here as a counter pick, because you're talking about the value of like a Black Cleaver or an LDR on any of these champions. You're getting a whole lot of value. As the Aurora,
I want to see Vayne.
I'd like to see Vayne as well. I think it would be really good in this comp. I'm not sure necessarily where they would put it. As the Aurora could flex towards that middle. So this is interesting because Brand could be in the bot side. This could be Brand Nautilus bot lane, which wouldn't be the worst, especially because it's an AP bot laner, which would then free up Aurora to go either top or mid. Now it could be Brand mid and Aurora top. I'm not really sure which combination they would run here, but they have options. Is the point I'm making.
Yeah, Brain AD carry, you know, obviously not AD carry, but
I love his pickup.
Yeah, this actually calls into question where Silas and Swain are going, right?
Yeah.
Swain, Alistar could definitely go bot lane if Brand and Nautilus are the idea here. Aurora, like you said, can be flexed into top side. So both teams seemingly have a lot of flex ability with these picks. We're really going to have a clearer picture once. Okay,
yeah,
Garen.
If they lock this in, it could be a last-minute change. No, they do, in fact, lock it in. It's that Garen going to go towards the top side. So that beggars the question where Enigmatic want to lose, because you're losing somewhere. Because the Silas is going to get a favorable matchup somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, the
Camille. Interesting.
Interesting. Ooh. Yeah, very interesting. So this does signal that Brand and Nautilus will be in the bot lane. You're going to have Aurora mid, Camille top. A lot of damage. In my opinion, funny enough, I actually think that the Nautilus ultimate would be the worst one.
I agree.
I feel like all the other ultimates that he has access to are like really, really good. And the fact that the worst one is on the support, you're not too mad about that.
Yeah, I just think the only reason I say it's a decent ulti is just because in terms of trying to ensure that you get your chains to connect and having your own CC, the Nautilus ulti is good there, but as a damage ulti, I mean, you're completely right. It's just not that good. Ooh, nice little word clear. Enigmatic. I'm not going to call that first blood, but that's a moral victory.
Oh, yeah. You know, you're already typing in GG in all chat if that happens. You take out a ward, that is like one of the best feelings in the early game.
Something I am a little bit concerned about for this bot lane, and this thought just occurred to me, is how disgusting potentially this Swain Alistar combo is. Because if John Scott does get tagged by anything, because remember, Zoko and Happy can just play through the wave. So if you get tagged by anything from them, it kind of might just be a wombo combo straight to death, and we're kind of even seeing it there, where like if you get caught even a little bit too far forward, it's headbutt pulverize into a grasp, and that does not feel good to get hit by multiple times, as Crimson's already lost about a third of his health.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very easy for Zoko to land all three abilities on that Swain. Get a lot of the stacks moving, the Crowstorm stacks. Or I don't think it's called Crowstorm. It's I always forget the name of it, but basically he's got a passive where whenever he lands his E, it gives him, or it's his W actually, it's going to give him increased health. He actually gets passive increased health off of it. And if you have an Alistar that enables you to just consistently land that ability over and over again, he's going to have a lot of passive increase in that health ability. So he'll be really, really healthy, and then it's really hard for a brand to actually burn him down in these fights.
Yeah. I think for DGS too, having Zoko on the Swain, even though Vision of Empires is not necessarily the greatest vision ability, it is nice to be able to at least potentially spot out where Kanama is going to be coming from in terms of trying to set up these ganks. And I think that's like something that I think is worth talking about here for a minute, is because Kanama, despite what I had kind of predicted in terms of worried about the Pantheon damage, was a huge part of Enigmatic's success, and the reason that they got back in that game is when Crimson is just landing these hooks over and over again, giving Happy Senpai the treatment that he got in the last game.
Yeah, this lane just feels it does feel fun.
This
though.
is goofy. It's a goofy bot lane. It's like neither of you guys are really threatened enough to have super kill pressure, but like your abilities just make this a little bit goofy. So
yeah, I feel like if either of them get hard committed by the support, then they die. Yeah. Which is kind of fun to think about. I just wonder how many times it's actually going to happen.
It'd be like two separate 1v1s. It's just the supports punching each other in the face, and it's Zoko and John just trying to burn each other down as quickly as they can. There's just no team play at all. It's just two 1v1s going down to the bot side. And the jungler's just sitting there in the bush just eating popcorn like, no need to get involved. They'll handle it.
Yep. And a nicely placed ward by Gojo is going to spot out that, or Konami on the Xinjiao, rather. So Konami heading towards that river. It's not going to be able to take much, and should be resetting anytime now. And yeah, he's going to go B now. So very, very even jungle state in this game.
Yeah, I think both these junglers should definitely keep their head down styles. See, this is exactly what we're talking about. It's a trade on backside. It's supports battling ADCs, supports battling ADCs. There's just a complete trade of abilities there. That's a funny little interaction. I'm sorry, that's just cute. It's just like, oh, look at you guys. Y'all think y'all do damage. Aw.
It's like they're throwing their Pokemon at each other to battle.
Yeah, Pikachu!
Little support Pokemon.
Or I guess in John Scott's case, it's just go Flareon. But yeah, I think definitely both these junglers, they're trying to keep their heads down and just get to level 6 as quickly as possible. I think they both recognize that they're going to have a huge effect on this game. And wherever one moves, I think is kind of how the game is going to go. I definitely think they both want to go towards this bot lane. Unless mid is just disgustingly pushed one way or the other or someone gets super low, I think there's no reason for them to focus another lane right now. Gojo and Permix, just leave them on the top lane on an island. Just try and focus towards this bot side. Because, I mean, we've highlighted so many times to so many different series, but it just really feels like bot lane kind of controls how the game goes.
It does, and I feel like this is going to be one of those games that we actually don't see that occurring, especially with the lanes that have been drafted.
One time.
I feel like the Garen lane, either Garen or Camille, this seems like a very volatile lane. Both of these champions are going to be building a high damage. Garen already signaling that with the two longswords. Mayview.
Konami had a potential in there on the Mayview, but was not able to find much more Fizz-Tacos. Unfortunately, on that recall time, he would have just been leaving his jungler for dead if there were more people here, but nobody dies. Just a little bit of a health of trade, or a trade of health. And also no Summoner's Blood either, so that'll be fine.
Completely even farm, so... A lot of pings coming out, though.
That was a nice headbutt. Flash forward, chains land. Ease manages to get over the wall. Exhaust was used. Will they be able to get the stun? She gets close to the turret. Konami's here to provide a little bit of coverage, so Flash is traded for both the mid. Honestly, not the worst trade for Eve. I'll be honest. That's like a couple flashes.
Yeah. It's actually more than fine. Yeah, Pernix is going to go on with his tacos.
Doesn't have the help here. It's kind of sitting underneath the turret. Its first blood does die. Flash out. Was trying to get the Flash out to get to safety, rather is not able to do so. Is happy. Gonna knock Pernix back. Or they may be able to collect a second kill here as Mayview will get the double. Might be a triple here as ERT way too close to the action and now should just be going down. As the Q, just that little spear, just enough damage and will be collecting the triple in the end. Huge deal for DGS. This is like how it was in the first game, but I don't believe yet because we know how that first game went.
Yeah, but Mayview Fractals is going to feel so good after that fight. 3-0 in a Jarvan this early in the game is going to be absolutely insane for him. He's going to be able to get that Sundered Sky very, very quickly, and that is going to be a huge power spike for him. So I would expect that Mayview is going to be causing a lot of damage in that opposing jungle.
And the subside of that, too, was another side of that, too, was that Garen had plenty of time in the top side. You start to push the waves and get a little bit of an extra gold lead. And I think even is this going to be a full fight here? Zoko's going to channel the ultimate. John Scott really can't go anywhere now. He even takes up a turret shot. And Zoko activates the ultimate, so it's a 1-for-1 exactly like we called. It's just a Portal combat. But now this will just be Fizz-Tacos running down here. Happy just wants to stun at the Nautilus, and this will be a kill getting donated over. And as we were talking about gold getting donated over, I was going to say you would have liked maybe some of those kills to go on to Fizz-Taco earlier, but Mayview not the worst spot for them. This ping's coming down. Bro, walk us through that replay. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, so as you can see here, Crimson Pog and John Scott doing a pretty good job of just pushing the lane, but they aren't really paying... Oh, this is a very early back. We're back to this.
Wait a minute. We got to go back to live. We got to go back to live because Fizz-Tacos is getting on to ERT, and Mayview is going to get his 4th kill of the game. They won't even let us talk about their earlier success. All right, you rude guys. We're going to go back to our replay. You're not going to stop us. We're going back to the replay.
Yeah, so at this point, I feel like this is really far back. We might have be watching the wrong replay here.
This is the one. It's a 40-second. So.
Okay, so yeah, just a bit of trading going on. Happy Senpai eventually ends up knocking John Scott, who's out of position. Turret damage does a lot, so Zoko does end up getting the kill on John Scott, but in return, Crimson will get the kill back onto Zoko. Overall, that's actually a win for DGS, but going back to this present fight. Crimson is probably going to fall here as well.
And DGS doing a really good job looking for some of these team fights, but they may have overstayed their welcome potentially, because now other people are going to start to get involved with this in Fish Tacos. Trying to trade on Anomaly. Crimson with a really good hood to help Dawn that one out. And the Brand Ultimate now going to get involved as it's between worlds to help lock down the kills. And we were just praising DGS. And as soon as we do, Enigmatic, they find a fight of their own. It's a double kill for Anomaly. They turn it right back around.
Yeah, the beginning of that fight looked really promising for DGS. It really did feel like they were going to absolutely run over ENG, but the fight just starts to last too long. Too many abilities are essentially missed, and now the sustained damage starts to come through. Anomaly going absolutely ham in that fight, gets 2 kills for himself.
Oh, Gojo's dead
yeah,
there.
Gojo's just solo killed on the top side. This is kind of how that matchup goes.
Yeah, he was just way too greedy for the plates there, and you don't need to be making that play as DGS. Like, just wait, be patient. And so Pernix going to be really, really happy to get that donation.
Yeah, it felt like they forced the dragon take when, it wasn't absolutely necessary. They didn't have that much of a lead, and they are going to get the grubs, though, so not the end of the world.
They're sending 2 up here to try and grab Pernix. Should be able to get out. Doesn't have access to the flash because he used it to get that kill. And will use the hook shot to get over the wall and Fish Tacos. They've got plenty of damage. They're going to lock Pernix close to this turret. Can he live for now, though? He's doing a good job trading. That was a lot invested to get the ENG top laner, and so they will walk out. They're going to flash each other an emote. And so I think good job, Pernix, just living there.
Yeah, no, really, really good. Survives the 2v1. After getting that kill. Garen will push the wave in, though, so going to lose at least 1 wave of EXP and gold, but that's not going to be too big of a deal, especially when you're up 2 kills.
Yeah. Well, and Gojo's ability, I think, in this game is to become a nuisance side lane pusher. I think even if he's not getting super involved in team fights, I think he's fine with that. But obviously, that's a lot harder to do if Pernix is able to stay relevant in the top side matchup and beat Gojo in the 1v1. And so then that starts to take away Gojo's ability to be that side lane threat. Especially
Pernix is making a huge mistake right now. Sorry to cut you off there,
no,
but Pernix not going to his tower and not ignoring Gojo is a huge mistake. He just went down like 3 waves there in EXP.
Yeah. There is a cost to be paid for everything. And no, I think a good point out there. Like, you don't want to be dropping gold in CS, especially if you want to try and stay even with this champion. That is 100% just looking to be a nuisance. Like, Gojo wins if he's able to just tie up Pernix and keeping him from going to those team fights. And so Pernix is, I think, going to be a little bit more cognizant of that as he's down about 20 CS. Now this bot lane about to get spicy because the flank is fully available. Crimson is going to get knocked back. John's going to get rooted up. And Mayview doing a really good job of setting this gank up. This should just be the kills going over. John does quite a bit of damage with the Brand ult, but it's not enough in the end to make up for being this position. And now Pernix, he's going to have to get himself out of dodge. Does Anomaly want to try and get involved here? Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but Gojo might just be dying here. Pernix is ignited. Gojo wants to throw down the ultimate. Does, in fact, do so. Anomaly, though, will at least make it a 1-for-1, but Gojo happy to walk away with that.
Yeah, and it all started based off of that play. Gojo correctly identifying that he needs to actually proxy the wave at that point to really maximize the amount of EXP gain that he gets over the Camille, given the fact that he just basically went down in that last fight. Ends up actually getting a wave of EXP up, levels first, and then is able to push the wave into a state where he actually wins the 1v2 fight. So an excellent play by Gojo. Sucks that he fell there, but now he's got a really good lead on Pernix, and that was kind of, we didn't see that coming, especially in the early matchup.
This is just going to be a regate here on to John, who was just too far forced up without a support. Not sure why you would ever be standing there without the Nautilus there to protect you. And so that will be a lesson that will be hard learned. You would have thought that they'd have gotten to this point with how bad these bot lanes have been going. And Zoko, again, doing what he did in the last game, getting controlled there. But will that amount to anything? Because they had an even more disgusting lead in the last game, and that one got turned around pretty handily in those team fights. Oh, Gojo. He's got help this time. Let's see what the 2v2 he yields. Anomaly doesn't have the ultimate to put out here. Is going to get smited just to add a little bit of damage. So they walk away with the jungler. They did get the teleport from Zoko, so I guess you get that and pull him out of that bot lane. But I think maybe worth it for the kill, especially given the amount of XP that Gojo's going to be getting.
Yeah, Anomaly burned Flash too, like the second before he died. So waste Flash, dies. Your jungler is now going to get really, really ahead, based off of just being able to Should be counter jungling here. If he doesn't counter jungle, it's a bit of a mistake. But
not sure
he's just a
why.
little too slow.
Yeah, I'm not sure why Eve stepped up there. Wasn't necessarily worth it to get that close, I think, because especially if the Garen was a little bit closer, that play starts to look a little bit more sketchy.
This is a bad dragon. They got Eve's rose low, so it's actually fine.
Yeah.
But it would have been dangerous if Eve was healthy at all. But since they were able to poke her out in the mid lane, it should be an easy take.
Yeah. See if they fancy themselves a potential play here, as John may have been yet caught again. Crimson just trying to buy a little space. Gets knocked back. Yeah, this brand mispositioned once again. It doesn't matter how good that ultimate is. If you're not grouped appropriately where you're supposed to be, and now Konami and Crimson, they may find themselves in the wrong play. This one, Konami throws down the ultimate, buy a little space to get a knock, but he's only going to send his jungler flying just farther away from the turret. DGS, they are trying to make up for that first game, and they're saying, you may get us once, but you're not going to get us twice. They are not going to allow that repeat performance.
Yeah, every single lane is popping off for the side of DGS. It just really feels like they're playing on the same page. This Zoko, Happy, Senpai, Alistar, Swain combo is just disgusting. If, like you said earlier, in level 1, if they just grab you with either champion, it's pretty much lights out. And we saw that for John Scott. Well, we've seen it multiple times now. He's currently 1-4 on this champion. Definitely not the game that he wanted, especially after such a fantastic Caitlyn game.
Absolutely not. Now we're starting to see the nuisance part of DGS's combo start to come through. Gojo is just going to be a continued nuisance in the top side. Already has a stride breaker. And so already starting to make opponents have a more difficult time answering him, though. Calling your jungler up generally kind of helps with that sort of thing, as Gojo just trying to run out of here. Shouldn't be able to get to safety. Gets smited just for the little bit of damage. Pernix is going to be donated that kill. So DGS, there's still plenty of room for improvement in terms of their shot calling and some of their discipline. Enigmatic, they're doing what they did the last game, but just staying scrappy. Yes, the game state is a little worrying right now, but it's definitely not like, panic button time yet by any stretch of the imagination. They still have the ability to win team fights. They just need to be a little bit more careful in how they're navigating these mid games. And they should be able to knock down this first turret in the bot side. Zoko, though, wants to have to say something about it. He is doing a pretty good job on damaging John, who is just slowly adding that passive damage. Zoko, who took that Swain to be tanky, is just not looking any tankier than a normal ADC would be in that situation.
Yeah. I don't think he's been landing a whole lot of Ws, ironically,
Nope.
to get a lot of that passive health up. I'm trying to check his stacks right now. Yeah, he only has 21 Rev in his flock. Stacks, so that only totals out to well, actually not nothing bad. It's 315, so basically like a ruby crystal.
Yeah. It's not nothing.
So it's not nothing,
but it's also
I
like
agree.
not great. It's kind of like the same thing we were talking about, like the stacks of oh my god, I'm forgetting the rune now, the tank rune. We'll have to get back to that in a minute, though, as Konami and Eve would like to knock down the Garen if they could, but won't be able to. But the grass procs, we were talking about that. It's like, you take that rune, you expect it to get tanky. It's like, actually, this is giving me very little tankiness. Gojo is going to be spinning to win, and he may have spun his way into a tremendous amount of kill debt. Does manage to flash away, though, as John has not yet built that Rival's Crystal Scepter that normally Brand's built to get the slow. And so they will be getting this top lane turret in the meantime. Enigmatic.
I don't know what Gojo's doing. I don't think they should be looking for a kill at all. Your team is pushing topside. Just be okay with that and leave. You don't need to be looking for these plays. This is the only way that you actually fall behind.
I mean, devil's advocate, they're being a nuisance in terms of drawing multiple people down there, but this may be at the cost of their jungler and losing stuff on the top side, because maybe does not have the damage to knock that one down. And I think Gojo's thing is he just wants to draw people off and be a nuisance and look for these angles. But the only angle that he may be finding is an angle to run out and get away, because Zoko is going to get stunned up. He's going to die here. That ultimate thrown down by John, passing him down. Zoko just barely living right now, just enough to sustain. And yep, he is going to knock him down. Jin Zhao comes into the top ropes with the steel chair. Gojo now going to be donated. He's finally going to be punished for his running around crimes as a pedestrian. He is going to get collected. John going to repay the favor from earlier. And now Enigmatic. This is what we were talking about. Their ability to turn these team fights no matter how bad the early game goes. And they're looking to get themselves back in with a couple plays like that. They're certainly doing it.
Yeah, I really like, I tried to harp on it earlier before this even happened, is you've got your 3 key members in the top side trying to take some... Yeah, definitely now making a mistake as well.
They threw an exhaust down. There's going to get a channel of teleport. Konami is always going to drop here, and this may be a teleport straight to death. Pernic's not going to have to get the hell out of dodge. And he may not be able to because there's a tremendous amount of CC flag, drag, chain, headbutt, pulverize. Still walks away, though, and now Company's here. John doesn't have ultimate. They may not need it. Happy, try to get underneath the turret. Headbutts Pernic's back. It's just a bouncy castle. Nowhere to go. My God, Enigmatic. There's just no time to talk about anything in this game. These guys are just making plays. You can't help but laugh. They threw so much at him, and he almost lived, and then Happy was like, nah, fam, this is sunk cost fallacy. We spent too much.
That's got to be clipped.
That's got to be clipped.
I don't think Pernix could move for like 20 seconds.
He's going to be like, hey, man, where's my Mayhem CC combo breaker? This is bullshit. It's like, imagine moving. Couldn't be him.
Oh, man, I'm crying.
Oh. Now, the consolation prize for Enigmatic is that they may be able to go get this dragon, especially with Brand having access to the ultimate. They'll need to have Perdix come down here. Perdix is, I think his job is just to be the CC sponge and just like, look, man, you survive longer than anybody here. You're just going to have to be the guy that eats all the CC abilities. Well, sorry, that's kind of your job. But in order to do that, they'll need to get all 5 rotate over to the mid lane. Perdix now, he's looking to return the favor. It's going to be a full team fight. John also going to throw down the ultimate. It's happening again. But wait a minute, Konami buying a lot of Space Fist Tacos now. Trying to see if he can get something to trade. It's something just a little bit, but doesn't able to do so. Doesn't matter. I can't talk, and DGS can't win a team fight. So we're all even after the end of this one. As Enigmatic, they're going to go grab themselves a bear, and DGS is going to go wonder, I wonder why we can't seem to piece this bit together. And this has just been not their night in terms of trying to win these skirmishes. Enigmatic have had their number all night long. We're going to replay of that. Blackmage, run it down for us.
Yeah, so right here you see just a little bit of an overstep by the side of DGS. Immediately, they try to knock Pernix around and get basically the same play that we just saw in the mid lane, but Pernix able to just barely get out of there. Meanwhile, they jump onto Happy Senpai. Yeah, they jump onto Happy Senpai. They end up taking out Garen as well, along with Fizz Tacos, and after that, it's pretty much just game over for them in that mid lane play, and they are able to get the dragon off of that as well. So a 2-to-1 dragon soul stacking game here. It's going to be very, very slow to actually get to that dragon soul if it continues this way.
I do appreciate how you can see what a player is thinking just by the body language and the way they play the champion. A person like, I've done my bit, I'm leaving. Like, I'm not going through the washing machine a second time. I already did it the first time. I mean, he lives on a sliver of health there, so even like one more ability or even a couple autos traded towards him might have been enough to secure the kill. So, but I definitely, like, you have to appreciate a top laner that is willing to just put themselves in a situation, because given what he went through kind of in that play towards their mid lane turret, you know, a lesser top laner might have been shy about making that play towards the mid lane in the first place and getting the lockdown on so many people. But Pernix is like, no, I know what my job is. I'm going to go in there and do it, even if it sucks to, you know, get bounced around a lot. And credit where credit's due. He set up Enigmatic, the rest of his team, for a fantastic team fight. And now the gold's solidly back in their favor. And it kind of leaves you wondering for Enigmatic, like, what are the pieces that they're missing to set this up? And one of the pieces that may be missing might be Gojo here in a second.
Yeah, it really does feel like when the team fights start to come around, that is when DGS seems to not really have much of an idea of how they want to play the map. And just as I say that, they're caught on the side.
Gojo's just down. Can't stand near the Braum. Has no magic resist right now. The DGS, they are going to be trying to find some way to come away with a little bit of something to buy time in this game. I keep saying something a lot, but something is what they're going to be looking for, because they're not finding anything. Even the Swain trying to flash over the wall, not able to get away from John Scott, putting that damage down. This Brand, they are getting maximum value out of this champ.
Yeah, Brand is going to definitely be the damage board leader at the end of the game. I would really like to see those stats once we get out of here. But yeah, I mean, this champion is just absolutely popping off. There's a lot of meatballs for him to just consistently land stacks on top of with his passive. And yeah, just we saw it there. Tons of damage coming out over the course of the fight. DGS doesn't really have the tools that they need to actually end up killing anyone on the side of ENG. And, it feels like the only big bursty damage dealers are this Silas and Garen. But if you just control them enough, I mean, that damage never comes through. And Mayview is building a very tanky version of the Jarvan build, so he's not going to be doing any burst damage like we've seen from some of the armor pen Jarvans. So yeah, it's just a lack of damage on the side of DGS.
Yeah, I mean, you did a really good job at highlighting that earlier in terms of the draft. Some of the difficulties that DGS might have in the late game, and I mean, your predictions fully come to fruition. And so I think for them, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to start to navigate these team fights. It's just the damage possibilities were there, but how they're executing on it is just really not that good. You know, and it's just weird because the landing states look so good for them in terms of what they're able to get, those incremental advantages, and then they're just not able to transfer to anything. And like even right now, Gojo is just trying to run to get away from multiple members. Scott's going to have more than enough damage, even flashed out. I don't know why you would commit the summoner there. You're absolutely going to die 100% of the time there when you get that low. You have no form of magic resist. You're just building straight damage. And now you put your team in a position where they can't really do anything on their side of the map with a Baroned up team that's looking to end the game. Happy Senpai, again, knocking permix down into multiple people, but this time there's not any additional follow-up. DGS, they are really struggling with this matchup right now. Pernix even going underneath the tower to land a little bit more damage, but has the safety of the teammates. And that turret, that's tier 2 turret in the mid lane is going to get knocked down. Blackmage, this is just not good for DGS right now. And Enigmatic, they're still not letting anything go.
Yeah, it's really not a good look for them. I think Soko's just dead here.
Yeah.
They might actually just end the game here.
Yeah,
they catch more people. Oh, wait.
Right. The damage is not the worst. They've got the Nautilus, but this isn't the champion they want. But John Scott, he's trying to see if he can land something over the wall. Nautilus is 100% going to die here. Won't have anywhere to go. Now, Gojo has gotten himself involved.
Yeah, they're going to be able to repel this invade. What I was trying to say is, yeah, Gojo was at the top side of the map and completely got caught out, ended up dying, and that kind of resulted in the push that we just saw there. Why is he there? Why is DGS putting Garen in the top side with a Baroned up team? There's no towers for you to get. Send him to the bot lane. There's a tower. There's a bounty for him to grab. You know that the majority of the ENG team is already at the top side because they just took the Baron. It just didn't really make sense to me. Yeah.
Well, and we were highlighting earlier, too, like, Gojo's whole thing is he just wanted to be a nuisance in order to make sure that someone would have to answer him on the bot side. But the problem is Enigmatic is just answering him as a group and then transferring the pressure that they're getting by killing him to somewhere else on the map. And Pernix may have found himself
nothing else is going on.
Kill here. Happy Senpai will be the donated over. The kill donated over, and they may be even collecting more here. Fizz Tacos has to just try and walk out of this one. Knows he doesn't have the damage to do anything yet. Trying to find an angle to get out. And Gojo not even safe underneath the turret as it's a double kill once again for Kanamali. And even Fish Tacos will be collected. They're going to make sure that that Silas isn't free to go anywhere. Kanamali still staying active in his bot side. Now he's got friends, goes right back in. Zoko trying to land the grasp, but it's not enough. Ace given over to the Enigmatic jungler. They're going to start to put the damage in these structures. Enigmatic, even despite how some of the early game has gone in both of these games, they are just better in these moments as a team, and they are proving it over and over and over again. They might even be looking for the end here.
Yeah, they have a much better grasp of the metagame. They understand objective take, objective control. Can't even see my words. They have a concept of that is much stronger than what we're seeing from DGS. DGS was perusing around the bot jungle, and I'm not really sure why. You know they're already on the dragon. You know they're going to take it. And I say this as they're, collectively falling over and over again in their lane. Are they actually backing out? They can just keep going, in my opinion, but...
They might be finishing. They got a couple of kills
saying,
that would recommit, I think.
Right, yeah. Basically, they're sitting around in the bot jungle, and for what reason? You already know that ENG is on the dragon. They're going to take it, whether you like it or not. You might as well put resources toward the top side and get some towers.
Next, throws down his own ultimate. Was stolen. They do get the shutdown there. That goes over to Garen. I'm not sure that's the champion. You really won't walking away with that gold, but that is going to be, for the time being, where it goes. Next dragon will be in about 4 minutes, as Enigmatic took that one off the backs of their play towards the mid lane. I know, I mean, I'm fully with you. Like, the same thing that I was saying about Enigmatic, and I think that Enigmatic, obviously not being able to hear the stream, but I think just something that they know because of the quality of the players, is you're making a list of things that you can live without and knowing when and where you're going to have to make your move. And Enigmatic did that in the second game, where they just found a moment after a Baron take where DGS was just a little too grouped in the wrong spot, trying to fight underneath tower, and they punished them for that. And DGS, they're in that position where they need to be making the same call, but they're not making it. You have certain things you have to let go of in these moments, and know that, like, if you're going to try and go into your own jungle, you have to go as 5. You can't send just a couple people because it's not safe. And Enigmatic, they're going to look for those opportunities to get a couple of easy kills. And if you give those opportunities to them, they're going to take them.
Yeah. In my opinion, they should be sending Garen to the bot lane. I think this should be switched.
Anywhere Brand is not. You need to keep this Garen away. He has no... Yeah. He's just now bought a cloth armor. Or no, that's not cloth armor. Sorry, I always forget what that is. Negatron Cloak. Sorry, Negatron Cloak. Yeah. Oh. Well, the good news, Mayview, is that he's going to be wasting a little bit of time. The bad news is that's just a really crappy consolation prize. Is Gojo going to be donated next? Eve's going to pick that one up, and now it's Pernix on the backside. Now, Fizz tries to knock him out of this, commits the Between Worlds just to try and delay the Camille, but it's not enough. He's going to exit stage right, uses the ultimate to bounce on out of there. And they were throwing Pernix into a bouncy castle earlier, and now he's in his own bouncy castle of hell. Zoko just left underneath the turret all by his lonesome. Yet another double kill for the enigmatic jungler, who has been, in fact, quite the player. Canomaly, I think, a huge part of their success. Hard to know whether or not we should give it to Pernix based on the suffering he's had in this game, or whether or not we should give it to Canomaly, but it just doesn't matter. Enigmatic, they've slain all the members of DGS as Mayview comes right back up. They're going to put the final damage in this Nexus, and Blackmage, they get another 2-0 win in the Surge Division. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back alive with an interview with Canomaly, the victorious jungler from Enigmatic. Buddy, how are you feeling? Y'all had two pretty interesting games in the early game.
I think it's feeling good, especially after our first game. Second game was a lot cleaner than the first.
Let's walk through that first one, because I know that there was a little bit of a struggle there. I know that on that Pantheon, kind of towards for about the first 20-ish minutes, it was kind of a little bit of a back and forth there. I know that DSG DFG. Deathfire Grass Squad, my goodness. They got out to a pretty convincing lead, but then you started getting a lot of these really successful skirmishes going. You built very, very heavily for damage, and I think there was that pivotal play where they just got Baron, they run mid, and then you guys just absolutely stomped them in a really quick skirmish. Walk me through what it was for your team in that moment, the comms that y'all had, and what the decision-making process was.
Oh, honestly, it was just they went in too deep, and then our Seraphine art, and we just kind of went in from there. We know our comp is all in, so when we got the opportunity, we did it, and we just kind of ran with it after.
Awesome. It seems like in some of these games, well, really in both games, the early game was rather rough. I feel like lane phases for your team in both sets, seemed like you were struggling. But as soon as the mid game rolls around, as soon as the late game rolls around, and your team comp starts to actually come to fruition, it seems like you get a stable head on your shoulders and you're able to just kind of bulldoze your way to victory. I'm just curious, is that a result of just repeated practice with these 4 other guys, or is this something that really comes from one of your shot callers?
I think it's just, we know we're good at team fighting. Like I expect that us not to really win early game. I try and play like early game champions like Pantheon or Zinzao to try and bully the jungle a bit, or to try and make a play or something. If that doesn't happen, I know my laners will survive to end game. If we get to end game, I know we just kind of win.
Awesome.
Is there anything that you guys learn from games like this, especially in the early game? Do y'all have any desire to kind of adjust that early game, or is it just your play style to, hey, we're going to sacrifice our early game and just try and stay even, and then we'll win ahead kind of the mid to late game in terms of team fighting? Do y'all have any desire to adjust that, or is that just the play style y'all want to go with?
I'm not really sure. It's more whenever we VOD it, we for sure need to VOD game 1 especially. But I think that was just us warming up. I think it was my bot lane's first game, maybe. I'm not too sure. So I think it was warming up, and once you got warm, you just kind of destroyed bot lane after.
Yeah, he did. That the draft of the game too, me and Horizon were kind of joking about it because we just felt like it was just a wet noodle fight in that bot side. And there's so many times where the supports were kind of each fighting their own battle. I'm just curious, was this like a planned draft for the bot side? Was the Swain always supposed to be, or I'm sorry, not the Swain, was the Brand always supposed to be going bot lane?
Oh yeah, immediately after the first game, it was like, what do we want to play for? And it was like, just pick me Brand. And it was like, okay. And we kind of just played for that.
Awesome.
Oh man. Hopefully we don't see more teams do this.
What's wrong with you don't like the Brand bot?
I mean, I'm cool with one team doing it, but when it's both, it's just obnoxious.
Yeah, I'm already starting to see a disturbing trend of double AP bot laners. I'm like, please don't do that. I'm like, I really love, because everyone's going to be sad when this is good for a little while, and then someone just drafts a Vayne into 2 AP bot laners, and everyone's going to be really sad when that Vayne runs away with the game.
Konami, your team, obviously, you're going to feel good about the 2-0 start to the league. Are there any teams that you were really looking forward to playing this season? And, can you give us any background knowledge that we might not be aware about in scrims? Is there any like hidden sleeper teams that are really outperforming?
Oh, I'm not really worried about any team. I think our real like opponent is ourselves. Like whenever like we're just like rolling over, right? We're not playing before games, right? We're like cold and stuff. Like we play bad as it shows. But whenever we heat up and we win. We know if we get to end game, we just kind of win everything. So I'm not too worried about the teams.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, Konami, that's all we have for you tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to give us an interview. Congratulations on your player of the series, and we very much look forward to seeing where Enigmatic is going to be in the next couple of weeks, especially with the 2-0 start that you guys have got. Y'all have been very entertaining to watch play, and we look forward to seeing y'all again soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.
No worries.